Joining us now from Jupiter in the state of Florida is Erin Elmore. She's a Republican strategist who worked as a spokesperson for Donald Trump during the 2016 presidential election. Thank you very much indeed for being with us, Erin Elmore. We've seen from opinion polls that Republicans are divided on what happened here in Washington on Wednesday. Do you support or condemn the protesters?
I don't think anyone in America or otherwise is proud of what happened. We all should condemn all acts of political violence. Political violence begets political violence, and that's what we have seen over the last year here in America, whether it was on January 6th, whether it was burning and desecration of St. John's Church, whether it was rioting and looting in Philadelphia, New York, Minneapolis, with BLM and Antifa. All acts of violence, political or otherwise, should be completely and utterly disavowed by everyone, including the media.
And do you believe, therefore, there is a case against President Trump for egging on the protesters and indeed for his son using terms referring to violence, such as a fight?
Well, I think a fight, that's funny that you say that, means a political fighting for our country, because conservatives believe in our military and our police officers and democracy. And what's happening right now is quite undemocratic. I remember Maxine Waters saying, if you see a conservative, go up to them in the shopping mall or while they're eating dinner. That is a fight. I remember Kamala Harris tweeting to bail out Black Lives Matter protesters who destroyed and desecrated cities and were involved in the killing of 30 Americans over the summer. So I think that is a fight.
What about the president saying we're going to have a march on the seat of government of the United States? I mean, that amounts to incitement, whatever may have happened in the past, doesn't it?
It certainly doesn't. It's our right as Americans to peacefully protest and assemble. Over the summer, all we saw was people saying that these were mostly peaceful protests. As my city, as a city dweller, I had to flee because it virtually burned to the ground.
Hang on.
So to flip the script now and turn the tides on conservatives is gaslighting.
But we're not talking about that now. We're talking about what happened here.
Of course not.
We
talk about it all in its totality.
No, well, hang on, wait a minute. No Black Lives protesters broke into the U.S. Capitol. No Black Lives protesters committed acts of violence which have now led to the death of a Capitol police officer. So this is what we're talking about, and we're talking about a president who, frankly, appears to have encouraged that behavior by calling a rally on that most sensitive day when the Congress was certifying the election result, which I know you and he don't accept, and then going on to say march on the Congress. I mean, there are those people, including Republican senators, Ben Sasse, for example, who say he's disregarded his oath of office and that therefore the Congress should take some kind of action against him. What do you say?
Well, as a journalist, one should never assume what their guest believes or thinks. I'd be happy to tell you my views if you shall have them. Having said that, I think all of these incidences of violence have to be taken in a totality as a country. And I think the mainstream media ignored what happened this summer. So what I ask you today is, do you disavow the violence that occurred over this summer? Because if we want to heal as a nation and move forward as a country and as a democracy, we have to disavow all violence. I disavow all violence. It makes me utterly sick in my heart. I need you to do the same thing right now.
Well, I am not a person involved in this fight. I'm asking you. You are someone.
So you won't say you disavow
clearly is
the
a
murder
supporter
of
of
30
Donald
Americans.
Trump. Do you accept? Are you shocked?
So that wasn't an answer.
Are you shocked that there appears to have been a much more gentle treatment of these largely white protesters than the treatment that's been meted out by the police to Black Lives Matter protesters over this past year?
Wait, you're saying nothing that is grounded in fact or reality. Nothing. Because you know what? All of these agitators and
well, I'm actually saying something that the president-elect of the United States said yesterday.
Okay.
So I'm asking you, do you agree with Joe Biden that if these demonstrators had been black, they would have been treated in a very different way?
They would have. It would have been completely ignored by the mainstream media. So he is right. It would have been absolutely ignored and called a peaceful protest. And we would have had celebrities and politicians bailing them out of jail. So, yep, I thoroughly agree with Joe Biden today.
No, I was asking you, and he was talking not
I understood
about
your question,
how
and I
celebrities
answered
behaved.
it.
He was talking about how the police behaved. Do you believe there has been an inequity in the way in which those demonstrators were treated softly here on Wednesday? We've only had a dozen or so arrests so far, in spite of a police officer being killed, compared to how the demonstrators over the summer were treated.
So now Blue Lives Matter. So now we're not into defunding the police, and we care about the police. That is an interesting chain of events. Having said that, the Daily Mail just reported, which is a UK publication, that all of these agitators yesterday will be prosecuted under President Trump's desecration statute. And what that will happen now is they are going to go to jail for over a decade. So these agitators will go to jail based upon an edict or an executive order by President Trump.
I mean, potentially, I mean, I know you're a lawyer. I mean, potentially, President Trump could go to jail for 10 years under that law, which he didn't actually introduce.
No.
He simply increased the penalties, didn't he?
Words.
Isn't that a live possibility?
Under a desecration statute.
Well, you don't think there could be action against the president for supporting the desecration of Capitol Hill?
He's the one that wrote the legislation against it. There was absolutely no support by the president by any way, shape, or form. That's just total leftist media talking head propaganda. Right.
What about the chances of him being impeached now? Do you think there is a case for that? We know that Congress, the lower house, wants to vote on that. We are hearing that a number of senators even Republican senators, are quite sympathetic.
What your viewers should know about that is it is nothing more than a political move. It is political theater because they actually have great fear for Donald Trump. They don't want him to run again in 2024. And the only way that they can prohibit or stop that is this impeachment sham. So, yes, I think that that's what many people might want on the left. But do I think it will be political suicide for many? Yes. Do I think it will be effective? Absolutely not.
And what about Article Amendment 25 of the Constitution? Do you feel that this president is fit to serve even for another few days?
I think the fitness that we should worry about is that of Joe Biden under the 25th Amendment. We know that he stumbles on his words incessantly. He appears to be in the early stages of Alzheimer, perhaps dementia. Having lived with two grandparents with it, it's very apparent to me to see. So I think if we're going to start talking about the 25th Amendment, let's be very careful what happens next.
I just got to put it to you finally. I know you're in Jupiter, Florida, but I think many British viewers in particular will think you are living on another very strange planet which has lost touch with right and wrong and political morality. What would you say to them?
Well, your quippy one-liners don't hurt me very much. And what I tell you is 70 plus a million Americans voted for President Trump. And those are people just like me, who have family that has served in the military, who paid for everything that we've ever earned in our life. I wasn't handed anything by anyone. And I am an American who has traveled all over the world and respects Great Britain and respects Australia and respects every corner of our world. I am the person who supports those who fight our wars and pay our taxes. So for you to call me anything less than a proper God-fearing, God-loving American who loves this country and loves our flag is shameful and disgusting.
Okay, Erin Elmore, thank you for joining us.